It is my pleasure to welcome Kara Loft to the digital stage. We are so lucky to share in song with Kara tonight. So I will now turn it over to Kara, who will introduce herself and lead us through some song. Thank you.
Niaugoa, thank you so much, Sarah. So, Sego, Sewagwego, Kara Lof Young Yats Gindege, Nituageno, Wagatanhione. So, hello everyone, my name's Kara Loft. My family comes from Tyendinaga, Mohawk territory, also known as Gindege within our traditional Ganyagehage or Mohawk language, and I'm from the Wolf Clan. I also work at the University of Guelph as an educational developer for Indigenous knowledges and pedagogies. And then in my downtime, I also run two different drum groups as well too, one at the University of Waterloo as well as one at the University of Guelph. So it is my privilege to be here today to help with your transition into the next part of your meeting here. And so we did test out earlier whether or not drum might come through over Zoom. And unfortunately, my drum's voice does not come through very clearly, so I'm going to offer a song with just my voice. But because my grandmother is here, I feel inclined that I should introduce her as well too. Oh, I see there's a note. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, just wanted to make sure. So this is my Nokomis Dowagon, also known as a Anishinaabe grandmother drum. And this has the 4 wolf paws for my wolf clan. It also has an eagle feather in the center here. And so this drum I've carried since 2018. It was gifted to me after I completed my master's. It was made by master drum maker Hilton King, and I carry her with me in the work that I do. And so, unfortunately, as I mentioned, her voice isn't coming through too much when we do the audio, but I have a selection of water songs that I would like to share with you tonight. And so I'm thinking there's a couple of them that I know, but the one that was coming to me is one that was taught to me by Elder Tina Armstrong from Bearskin Lake First Nation. And this water song is an Anishinaabe Moan, so in the Anishinaabe language, and it talks about water being the lifeblood of Mother Earth. And so I think how important and how beautiful that there are women leading in this work. And for us as Haudenosaunee, we come from a matrilineal society, and so women are often leading the work in our communities as well too. And so I want to offer this water song taught to me by Tina Armstrong, and it's meant to talk about the water that exists within our first mother, the earth, and how that water, the groundwater, is her lifeblood. Nebi wabo nendayan Aki mishki wabo Heya 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 hey Heya 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 hey Nebi wabo nendayan Aki mishki wabo Heya 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 hey Heya 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 hey Nebi wabo nendayan Aki mishki wabo Heya 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 hey Heya 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 hey Nebi wabo nendayan Aki mishki wabo Heya 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 hey Heya 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 ho Niaugoa. Thank you folks so much. I do have one other song, potentially. Not sure if that's okay with the organizers. I have another one that I have one picked out for the ending as well too. But I think that the other song, which is also sung without instruments, is the song by Doreen Day and her grandson, the Water Song. And it talks about water, I love you, water, I see you, and water, I respect you in the Anishinaabe language. And for those who don't know, it was actually Doreen Day and her grandson were walking by the lake, and her grandson said, how can we show the water that we love it? How can we show the water that we respect it? And so Doreen said, why don't we make this into a song? And to me, that's beautiful intergenerational learning, the lifting up of the younger generations to pick up this work. And so succession planning, potentially, for future water watchers and water walkers. And so the song goes like this. Nibe Gizagehigo Jimmy Guechoe Nimigo Gijawe Nimigo Nibe Gizagehigo Jimmy Guechoe Nimigo Gijawe Nimigo Nibe Gizagehigo Jimmy Guechoe Nimigo Gijawe Nimigo Nibe Gizagehigo Jimmy Guechoe Nimigo Gijawe Nimigo. Niaugoa, thank you all so much. And it's really wonderful to be able to share these beautiful songs with you.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Kara. That's such a beautiful, like heartfelt way to transition. I love both of the songs, and really, really appreciate that you're here with us and that you can stay and close us out beautifully as well. So thank you so much for
Yes.
the transition.
Yeah.
Yeah. And next I'm going to invite, like in an age-old tradition here at Water Watchers, our founding originator, Mark Goldberg, is going to join us here as we've done year over year. And Mark is going to welcome and help us move into the next piece with a toast. So Mark, thanks for being here. Thanks for starting Water Watchers. Oh goodness, it's 19 years ago. It'll be this spring. And thank you for holding this really important role year over year. So I see your name up here. Are you able to put your camera on? I think I'd be having some weird screen. Oh, there you are. Hi, Mark.
Yo,
Yeah. Hello. Welcome.
thank you, Arlene. And thank you, Kara. Big McGuetch. That was beautiful.
So yes, as Arlene mentioned, we have a tradition of starting some of our earlier meetings with a toast to water. So please find yourself a glass or another suitable container and fill it up with tap water. And while you're doing that, I'll just make a few remarks about water. Water is one of the most interesting substances on Earth. And I'll tell you a little story. One time I went on a cross-country skiing trip with some friends, and we stopped for a tea break. We built a fire on a frozen river, and we drilled through downstream to get some water and boiled the water to make some tea. So just think about that image of liquid water of the river flowing underneath the frozen water, and on top of that, boiling water. And that image of water in its three different states in the same place has stuck with me because it's magic. Water covers 70% of the earth, although we can only use about 0.3% of this water for drinking. And we are very blessed in Canada to have 20% of the world's fresh water, doubly blessed here in Guelph and Wellington County, the home of the water watchers, because our tap water comes from a deep aquifer, the Periscope moraine. This groundwater is very, very pure, and it's been there for centuries, long before the introduction of man-made chemicals. So access to this drinking water is very important because water is essential for life. Water makes up 70% of an adult's body, 80% of a newborn's body. We use water to clean ourselves when we're showering or bathing, and we need water to grow crops and sustain us. So, the phrase "we are water," which is the title of today's AGM, is so true. We are water. But beyond these factual observations, we have a very spiritually profound relationship with water. We are in awe of the power and the sound of a waterfall, for example. We're astonished by the shimmer of the sunlight on rippling lakes, or the mirror image of a shore in the early morning on a still lake. We're put at peace by the first snowfall when it's a very gentle snowfall. We're mesmerized by trees coated with frozen rain, shimmering in the morning sun. And the ever-changing shape of clouds never fails to spark our imagination. So if everyone has a glass of water, please raise it and join me in a toast to water. Thanks, Arlene. I'll turn it back to you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mark. Thanks for that beautiful story and for the reminder and for kind of using the framing too that we are water, which is how we frame this whole meeting. So thank you for your ongoing work. And yeah, maybe I'm going to find my way back to just taking our next steps into how this meeting will unfold. And again, I'm seeing, what's our number at? We're at 82 people on this meeting right now, or 82 devices. Sometimes maybe there's a couple of you in a room. So I want to first of all just take a moment to really thank you all for taking time out of your busy lives to join us this evening. I'm sure there's a lot of things you could be doing, and that you've chosen to be here is a sign of your interest and dedication to our precious waters that we are all made of. And for the balance of our time together this evening, we'll be hearing from Traditional Ecological Knowledge Keeper Sue Chiblow. We will then share a bit about the time we find ourselves in and the broader context of our work in which our piece of movement building is happening. And we will review the work of our past year, and we will share some thoughts on where we're headed, including an exciting new initiative we'd like to launch, and we'll be launching here tonight. So sit back and relax and enjoy. And where you are feeling called, please do engage in the chat, any thoughts, comments, or reflections along the way. And without further ado, it's really my deep, great honor to invite and welcome Dr. Sue Bell Chiblow, who is Anishinaabe Kwe, born and raised in Garden River First Nation, Ontario. Sue has worked extensively with First Nations communities for the last 30 years in environmental related fields. And on this note, I want to direct your attention to an important campaign that Sue is inviting us all to learn about and support. This is the Traditional Ecological Knowledge Elders Campaign, calling for a moratorium on aerial herbicide use and respect for Anishinaabe law across their traditional lands. We'll include a link here in the chat, and we really invite you to please read about this important work and to support as you can this really, really important campaign. Sue has a BSc in biology, an MSc in environment and management, and has her PhD in environmental science with a focus on Nibi Kendasawin water knowledge. She has worked with the Chiefs of Ontario as the environmental coordinator of the Environment Unit. Through her company Ogama Anag, Sue continues to work with First Nation communities and elders as an Anishinaabe advisor on environmental projects and policy analysis. for example, on watershed planning, source water protection, Anishinaabe law development, policy development, facilitation, strategic planning, report writing, environmental assessments, documenting traditional ecological knowledge, and environmental management planning. She's a wealth of knowledge, as you can see. Dr. Chiblow is also a Vanier Scholar and Assistant Professor at the School of Environmental Sciences here at the University of Guelph. And so that's a mouthful. And Sue, I also just from my heart just want to really thank you for joining us. I also deeply appreciate that you still seem to be in transition and you're taking time to join us. So thank you very much. And I will pass it over to you to share some words.
Wow, big wedge. Ani bojo kinawea. Chiblow dishnikaz ogama anagin go chak dodam kataganzi bing danjba nishnabe kwe dao. Kataganzi bing and dogam. So my name is Chiblow. I am Crane Clan and I'm from Garden River, as was mentioned. But I want to thank Mark. I think that's Mark for that story. That was just. It was such a great story. And Kara, I just missed your voice, but I heard everybody saying how beautiful it was. So I'm just going to have to catch you another time. So thank you for that also. I'm also a commissioner. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the International Joint Commission. So I'm the first Indigenous woman appointed to the commission as a commissioner by Canada. And I've been there for a couple years. I'm on my halfway in, so I have another few years to go. So all of my life, it seems like I've been focused in and around water. I grew up around water and I've worked with water, participated in water walks. I don't know if I would call myself an expert in anything, really. I've been very fortunate to have a lot of elders share knowledge with me. So I just try to carry that knowledge in the kindest way and pass it along as part of a responsibility of as Anishinaabe people. We say that knowledge is a gift, and with that gift comes a responsibility to carry that knowledge and do something with it, and also pass it along in a very kind way. So I want to say miigwech to all of the teachers who have shared their knowledge with me, and to the waters who have also shared their knowledge with me. So thank you again for inviting me. I am in transit, but yeah, that's okay. I'm able to pull over and have a little break. What I wanted to talk a little bit about, and just from looking at the screen, I see a lot of women. And I really admire that, because as an Anishinaabe person, and I can only share Anishinaabe teachings, I cannot speak on behalf of everybody or anybody, and I can only share my understandings of these. And as women, we have a special connection to water because we have that choice on whether or not we want to carry that water lodge. And in that water lodge comes new life, which is a child. And typically we mirror creation, our bodies mirror creation, because the water typically comes forth and then new life comes forth. Just like in the springtime, those spring waters come rushing in and new life comes forth. So as women, that's our responsibility to carry that water and to carry those teachings and to do those prayers for those waters. There's Josephine Van Damenbaugh always said there is no wrong way to pray for the water. There is no wrong way to sing for the water. And we can all do that. But they've also said that when women stand up and start taking back our responsibilities, because I think we all know that in many instances, we have been suppressed. Our knowledge has been suppressed. Our voices have been suppressed. And when I see all of these women on the screen, I'm like, yeah, we're all coming back and we're all picking up our responsibilities. And that is to be that voice for the water, to express how important the water is. And when we say, water is life, we mean so much more than that, because I think Mark had mentioned that our bodies are 70% water. So we're walking water vessels. We carry that water all the time with us. And we have that opportunity to change our waters on a daily basis. We input and we output. But when we're inputting, we can always say, I love you. Zogdoin, miigwech to these waters. And when those waters enter your body, it transforms the waters within your body. And this was always a teaching that Josephine Van Damenbaugh shared with us when we were on the northern direction water walk, from the 4 directional water walk, which they called Mother Earth water walks. And because we talked about how water can see and feel and read. And of course, I was being smart because people would bring us water bottles, in plastic. And she was so against that because she always said, imagine if you wrapped your entire body in plastic, what would happen to you? You would die. So we're drinking dead water. So we need to love the water, to sing to the water, and that will help transform how the water interacts with our bodies. And they had brought in us water bottles one time that had, you can buy the water bottles that say smart water on it. So of course, me being, trying to be all funny, said, oh, look I'm going to be really smart when I drink this water. And so she gave those teachings that evening about how water can read and feel and hear, and water is a living entity, because we are living entities and we carry that water. And a couple years later, we discovered that there was a gentleman, Japanese scientist, Murasu Emoto, and he had published a book, and he had done some scientific experiments with water and showed that he froze water and used a high-powered microscope, and he would do different things to the water, so play different music, say different words to the water, put different words on a water bottle, and show how that actually transformed the water. And so it's always great to see how Western science is supporting and uplifting Indigenous knowledge. But again, as women, we have the opportunity to share those messages, to bring those messages forward. And it doesn't matter if we're blue or brown or green or black, it doesn't matter what color our hair is, because water unites us. We all came from that water lodge. No matter who we are, we sat in that water lodge for an extended period of time. We grew, we formed, and then we came into this world. So we have something so much in common, and that is water. And without even thinking about, how we all need water, all life needs water. If water was to disappear off of the planet, we would not survive. No life would survive. But if humans were to disappear off the planet, everything would be totally fine. So trying to shift the paradigm and trying to remember that we are the ones who need water, so it is our responsibility to protect the waters. And especially as women, because we have that connection to the waters through the water lodge, and we also have that connection to Nokomis Jesus, to Grandmother Moon. We have teachings, and you can just put this into any search engine and so much information will come up about it, but that we mirror the moon because we as women are the only ones able to move that water. And when we look at the moon, she is the only one that can move entire oceans. She can move tides, she can move rivers, and we as women mirror that because we move water when we bring forth life. We also mirror how the 28-day cycle that she has, our bodies go through that 28-day cycle. And so we have that special connection to Nokomis Jesus, and all women have that connection. It's not just Indigenous women, and I try and remind people that it's not just Indigenous women's responsibility to pray to the water, to sing for the water. We all have to do it. We all need to stand together and show our respect and our pray and sing our songs and our offerings. And I always recommend to my class, I ask them, where did you actually come from? Where are your ancestors from? And to ask your mother and your grandmother, were there any songs in your country that you came from? Any songs in your language that you had for the water? Because there's a book out there, I think it was in 2005, and it's a beautiful, beautiful book, and it's called Water Voices of the World. And it's all of these different people from different countries talking about how important the world is, how important the water is to all of the world, and all of these different cultures in all of these different countries all have a way that they respect and that they pray for the water. So I also too like to try and challenge people. I'm really a competitive person, and when we were younger, we had to haul water. I didn't have running water till I was about 10 years old. And so we used to have to haul water, and we'd be so careful carrying that water because we didn't want to spill a drop of it. And so I challenge people in this day and age that to try and do a waterless Wednesday. And it's amazing because you're called the Water Watchers. Everything is starting with a W today. Um, I challenge you to do a waterless Wednesday. And of course, if you have medical conditions and you can't do it, well, then don't do it. But I challenge you to try and go without water for one day and see how much we just naturally use water, how much we rely on water, how much we just take water for granted because we can always turn on a tap and grab some, or we can stop in at the store and grab some in a plastic water bottle. We have access, like Mark had said, to water. And we have, we're very fortunate here on Turtle Island to have access to that often, and to water, that types of water, the different types of water. So I challenge you, I leave you with a challenge to try and do a waterless Wednesday. And then, share with your friends what you felt and how much you value the water the next day even more. Or when you have your first sip of water in the morning, and imagine, like Mark was saying, try to imagine where that water comes from. Whether it be flowing down from the mountains over a waterfall, the beauty that water brings us, but also remembering that duality of water, because as water gives us life, water can also take life. So having that respect for the water, and so doing that Waterless Wednesday challenge and sharing with your friends on how that went, and how it is so humbling to understand that we rely on the water and the water does not rely on us. Now, miigwech.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you, Sue. Thank you for being with us here tonight and for sharing your profound words, even as you are parked in a car. And still the beauty and the humility of your words have come through. I particularly am grateful for you sharing not only the teachings that some of the pieces that you've learned in the Anishinaabe culture, but also the invitation to each of us to look into our own ancestral lines, to see what might be hiding there, or maybe hiding in plain sight there, around how to engage with water. And I really love, I've heard you mention before, this Waterless Wednesdays ideas.
Mhm.
And I think it's a really interesting idea that we could, especially where we have regular access, could experiment with, to really learn a humble approach to it. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being with us. And you are most welcome to remain with us. And if you need to transition, we certainly understand that as well. So beautiful.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So yeah, that was a beautiful next transition. And I'm going to invite Danny here to the stage next to talk a little bit about the context and the time we find ourselves in. Welcome, Danny.
Thanks so much, Arlene, and hello, everyone. I am Danny. I am the Campaigns and Communications Director with Water Watchers, and it's my distinct pleasure to get to be here tonight and speak on behalf of our collective work. I've been with Water Watchers for 7 years now, and I've always known I wanted to do water work in some way or another to help people connect with this piece of creation and to protect the source of life itself. But it has never felt so critical as it does at this moment with all that we've been watching unfold this last year. This feels like a pivotal moment for humanity. We keep saying that we find ourselves in unprecedented times, and I keep finding that it's true. And every day it seems like a new threat is emerging, but resistance is also a deep well. And so we keep digging deeper and rising in response to hold that line. Our mission at Water Watchers is to empower people and communities to work towards social justice through the unifying lens of water, and taking water as a grounding force through which to view these unprecedented times paints a challenging picture at multiple different scales, but also paints a picture that's rife with opportunity to confront the harms against water and to start building towards something different too. At the provincial level and around the Great Lakes, we've seen the Ford government stripping away protections and democratic processes, streamlining development pathways, while simultaneously removing authority from the very agencies, acts, and policies that were meant to protect water from our voracious societal appetite for more and more and more. At the federal level, we've seen those same things echoed. We are actively witnessing public funds removed from the realm of the public good and push towards investments in mega infrastructure projects that will further harm the lands and waters that so desperately need our protection. They try to say it's for national security or nation building, but we know that real security and resilience would mean protecting all the sources and relatives that give us life. And it's not just so-called Canada where these harms are happening either. Global groundwater levels are depleting at rates that far outpace replenishment through the water cycle and far outpace what science was predicting for like the reduction of those sources. Water is being polluted, resources extracted, and that's further harming and threatening waters at the source. These are prophecies. There are prophecies rather that like speak to this moment that we find ourselves in, and we invite you all in a future conversation to explore that topic with us, specifically in partnership with Indigenous elders and knowledge keepers. But for now, we can really glean a lot just from our own introspection about this moment that we find ourselves in. In the face of all of these pressures on water, she still finds a way to sustain us, to give us life. To be in relationship with water is to know that she gives us everything, and we must try to live up to all the water does for us and strive for our actions to make us worthy relatives living in reciprocal relationship, not extractive hierarchical ones. And we need to engage in two kinds of work in order to like live into this. We have to hold the line, and simultaneously, we need to build toward a future that supports life. We need to react against the harmful activities and policies being proposed, but we also need to proactively create the future that we imagine through pilot projects, policy wins, and protection outcomes. So, with that vision in mind of both resistance and building toward, let's take a look at what our Water Watchers community has accomplished over the last year. And to begin this section, it is my pleasure to invite our newest staff at Water Watchers, Ilham Abdul Kadir and Isabel Bowers, to share some of the powerful outcomes of our campaigns from over the last year. So Isabel and Ilham, that is over to you now.
Thank you so much, Danny. Hello, everyone. My name is Isabel again. I support the Water Watchers fight against the salt pollution of our Ontario waters. We made huge strides this year in our fight against salt pollution, and I'm so thrilled to share some of these highlights with you tonight. Water Watchers has led the Ontario Salt Pollution Coalition for the last 2 years. We're a group of individuals, grassroots groups, and NGOs who believe Ontario waters should not be degraded every winter. As it stands, 2 to 3 million tons of salt are dumped on Ontario roads and sidewalks and parking lots every single year, and the water bears the scars as evidence. Salt levels are reaching and surpassing critical thresholds across the province, and these numbers won't trend down. Salt is a forever contaminant that remains in the water forever, but we don't need salt to keep winter safe and navigable. So we've been working to win significant provincial policy change that will stop salt at the source and protect our shared waters. This includes drinking water sources and ecosystems that aquatic species depend on for life. This year, we reached decision makers over 6,000 times with our joint advocacy, including engagement from almost 19,000 people across the province. It's amazing. And we won't just stop there. In 2026, we're expecting at least 30 more cities to pass resolutions calling on the province to act on salt pollution. And we have an ambitious slate of government meetings, rallies, and press conferences in the works. We know the Ontario government is very close to taking action on this issue, and we will not stop until they do. This is a non-partisan issue that benefits all Ontarians, and we're proud to lead this campaign. Together, we're working to keep fresh water fresh, and I can't wait to see what all our work in 2026 brings after this monumentous year for salt pollution action.
Thank you, Isabel, for that great update on the salt pollution campaign. And hello, Water Watchers family. I am Ilham, and I work on both the End Bottled Water and the Human Right to Water campaigns. With Nestle fleeing North America in 2021 and Blue Triton exiting shortly after, the End Bottled Water campaign looked a little different this year. We found ourselves responding to blatant attacks on water protection and water rights under the guise of streamlining policy. Specifically, there were 8 actions we launched this year defending water as a public trust and calling for an end to bottling that garnered a total of 52,432 decision maker impressions and engaged more than 30,000 people across the Great Lakes region in the fight for water justice. This included organizing against Ford's water grab, a sneaky move to make water taking permits transferable, which environmental champions Maud Barlow and Diane Sachs helped rally against alongside us. The government tried to dispel our collective outrage, saying that the policy changes would not in fact make permits functionally perpetual or transferable, but just weeks after issuing their final decision to implement the policy. Despite over 3,000 comments objecting, they transferred permits at the old Nestle bottling sites to the new owner, Ice River, without public input or Indigenous consent. This move has all the dressings of a backroom deal coordinated with Ice River, and we will be referring this case to the Integrity Commissioner for review. And this trend has unfortunately continued lately with a whole suite of new policy change proposals announced in the last few weeks that impact a huge swath of water issues, from water usage in AI data centers to consolidating conservation authorities to source water protections and decision-making over water. We have a new action launching tomorrow, responding to yet another proposal from the Ford government, which would open the door for the privatization of our water and wastewater services. An experiment which has failed in every single place around the world that has done it, from right here in Hamilton to the UK to Nigeria. Water is a human right and cannot be turned over to the hands who are bound by corporate structures to drive decisions through the lens of profit. And speaking of water as a human right, we also reached over 5,000 signatures on our petition to the federal government this year to legalize the human right to water. Reaching this threshold triggers the next phase of the campaign, and we'll be gathering alongside Indigenous leaders and water advocates this winter to co-design the next chapter in the fight for our human rights. Over 1 million people in Canada go without regular access to drinking water, and we're working to make that a statistics of the past.
Thank you, Ilham, for highlighting all the amazing work happening within those campaigns. And to build off of your last point, actually, one of the ways we'll be able to ensure drinking water security into the future is by protecting our drinking water sources. Our work to end the Line 5 oil and gas pipeline is our most important campaign focused on drinking water source protection. The Line 5 pipeline, which runs through the heart of the Great Lakes, was built to last only 50 years. Today, Line 5 is almost 74 years old, and it has spilled millions of liters of fossil fuels into the Great Lakes Basin. Its most concerning and vulnerable point for a spill is at the Straits of Mackinac, where the pipeline runs through the waters of the Great Lakes, free floating in some places and subject to dangers like anchor strikes by large vessels that use the straits. Enbridge, the company that owns and operates Line 5, has enough capacity in its existing pipelines to transport all the product that currently moves through Line 5, meaning that this pipeline could be closed with little to no impact. Instead, and despite numerous reports from all sorts of sources advising against it, Enbridge is doubling down on Line 5 by proposing to build a tunnel under the Great Lakes at the Straits of Mackinac to encase the tunnel. A mega infrastructure project of this scale carries significant risks of an oil spill as it has never been attempted anywhere in the world. It's been flagged by experts as technically unsound, and it threatens to pollute the Great Lakes, which provide drinking water to 40 million people. Further, several Indigenous nations in the US and Canada have registered their dissent formally through the courts, saying Enbridge's plans undermine their treaty and inherent rights. We've been working with amazing partners and Indigenous allies to stop the Line 5 tunnel and shut down the pipeline through the End Line 5 Canada Coalition for 2 years now. We initially sought to influence Canadian decision makers who were helping keep the pipeline open. However, as the federal government moved toward investing in large, nation building projects, it became clear that Canadian officials were peripheral to the real decision. We therefore shifted our focus to American decision makers, those who ultimately control the permits for Enbridge, for the Enbridge's risky tunnel project, especially in Michigan, where just one permit remains outstanding. This year, we've engaged over 140,000 people around the Great Lakes and made almost 70,000 decision maker impressions on the Line 5 issue. If you'd like to learn more, we do have a webinar tomorrow evening with water defenders from across North America who are all joining together to elevate this issue. We'll drop an RSVP link in the chat if you would like to attend. But the bottom line is, as long as we await a decision on this last permit, we will continue resisting this heinous attack on the Great Lakes and fighting for a future with clean water for all people and beings who call this basin home.
And it is really through seeing our connections to one another through the lens of water that we can begin to challenge the threats to water and people at the source. Nowhere is that more evident than in our solidarity work with Indigenous allies. Indigenous peoples here and around the world have lived in close reciprocal relationship with their local lands and waters for millennia. They are the people and communities with the wisdom of what balance looks like, what it means to be in right relationship with the ecosystems we depend on for life, and how we can give back to tend to them in return. We act in solidarity with Indigenous-led movements in a few different ways, donating staff time to support their work, amplifying issues Indigenous partners share with us, fundraising for Indigenous-led work, giving a platform to Indigenous allies to share their perspectives, and participating in events we're invited to. This year, we had two particular initiatives we want to highlight: solidarity work with Grassy Narrows and fundraising for the Mother Water Walk. Through sharing our communication platforms with Grassy Narrows, making content to amplify their calls to action, and connecting Grassy's solidarity team with Water Watcher volunteers, we were able to engage almost 20,000 people and helped make 30,000 decision maker impressions. We also raised $11,603 for the annual Mother Water Walk, a ceremonial water walk along the so-called Bruce Trail, the longest marked footpath in Canada, which has been a sacred journeying path for Indigenous peoples for millennia. This ceremony has been held by Bewasea for 9 years, walking and praying for all our waters from Niagara Falls to the sacred site on the Saugeen Peninsula. We'll continue deepening our solidarity work in 2026, and we're very grateful to get to be in relationship with so many amazing Indigenous-led movements on the forefront of water protection and climate action.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ilham and Isabel, for that great overview. of our campaign's impact over the last year. It's incredible to see what we as like such a lean organization can do through the power of community. Those impacts are not just reflective of our staff campaign leadership and our allyship initiatives. They are really rooted in the actions of all the individual supporters who call themselves Water Watchers. So I just want to pause and extend a big, huge thank you to each and every one of you who made these impacts possible in 2025. And to add to that, I have some more numbers to share with you that make our collective impact even more impressive, if that even felt possible at this point. So this year, these are some different ways that we can think about the influence that we've been able to have on the water protection space. And this year, totaling across all of our work, we were able to mobilize almost 20,000 digital actions, over 135,000 decision maker impressions. We hosted and collaborated on 60 events. We trained at least 72 organizers and submitted 9 individual and joint submissions on different policy engagement pieces, asking for feedback as we've seen coming from the Ontario and federal governments. And our reach across all of that work was to a total of 200,028 and 347 people. That is just an insane number. And to add to the insanity, tallying up all of those points, we had a jaw-dropping 383,114 points of engagement and impact for water protection. And that is worth celebrating. So cheers to all of you who made this possible through your actions, your donations, and sharing in your networks.
Thanks, Danny. And speaking of celebrating, we also always like to reflect on our wins, the tangible outcomes our actions created for the water and for each other. Some years our wins are really big and we have several to highlight. This year we have 2 we'd like to spotlight. On the shores of Lake Superior, we helped our allies in Michigan stop the proposed Copperwood mine from impacting beautiful old growth wilderness and spilling toxic waste upstream of the other Great Lakes. We got decision makers in Michigan to reject public funds for the mine, and because of our collective efforts, there will be no copper mine threatening our shared waters. This is great news. In 2025, we also helped conserve 1.72 billion liters of water because of our victory against Blue Triton. Almost 2 billion liters of water stayed in the ground in Ontario because all of the effort on all of us, and that's really amazing. We have to remember that that's a win to celebrate. We also prevented the creation of over 100 million water bottles, which would have required up to 300 million more liters of water in the bottle production to produce, in the process to produce it. Congratulations to every soul that helped make these outcomes a reality. So even though there's an awful lot of positivity that we've just shared there through this amazing work that's happened over the last year, we also got some really challenging news. As you all know, Blue Triton, who announced they were leaving water bottling in Ontario last year, sold the former Nestle water bottling site for over $60 million to Ice River Springs, a Canadian water bottling company with deep pockets and interests in the fossil fuel and plastics industry.
And we have big work coming to resist this continued water profiteering, including being ready to mobilize Ontarians when Ice River has to renew their water taking permits in 2026. Between now and then, we need to mobilize toward our ultimate goal of ending permits for water bottling in this province. At the moment, we have a call to action to the Ford government to rescind the former Blue Triton permit that they granted over to Ice River, and we'll include that in the chat now as well. And if you have not already done so, please take a moment to engage and send in your thoughts to help get that permit rescinded. It's important that they hear from as many of us as possible and that we escalate our calls to action and our numbers over the next year. We must do this work of opposing the commodification of precious life source that is water, while continuing to advocate for the inherent right of water herself to flow freely in the cycles that allow for life here on this blue planet, and for the unequivocal human right to clean, drinkable water.
This year, we started asking ourselves a different question. What would it look like to not just resist water profiteering, but to also proactively build toward a future without bottled water? The collective dreaming we've done around this question has resulted in the emergence of an exciting new chapter for Water Watchers, one where we don't just say water for life, not profit, but we bring the reality to life.
We are thrilled to announce our intention to launch a new program in spring 2026, the Mobile Drinking Water Unit program. This program responds to the need for water access out of bottled water by this amazing unit that has water taps accessible and is towable anywhere by trailer, and has a unit inside that you can fill up with clean water. It introduces the potential for revenue from renting out the unit so that we can resource our water protection work. It can help us reach new supporters. It can create youth employment opportunities and enable us to respond to acute needs for water access, such as on the front lines where people are actively engaging in water protection work on the ground, or in communities that are facing drinking water crises.
Yeah, our fundraising from now until the end of January will all focus around helping this dream become a reality. A world in which the principles of mutual aid are the source of our resilience and adaptability. When our governments fail us, we do not let them off the hook. We continue the pressure, but we also engage at the community level to support one another, bringing beautiful, clean drinking water where needed. You can help us by being some of our first contributors to this campaign. And we're going to pop a little link in the chat here. And Danny's going to tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so the extra cool thing about the initiative that we're doing around fundraising to bring this program to life is that there are a few different and new ways that people can help us support bringing this program to life. Individuals can set up their own fundraisers. I have a little slide that has an example of the fundraiser that I set up to support this initiative. And it's really easy if you're interested in making your own fundraiser to just send us a note, and we can help you set up your own webpage like this that you can share in your community. But we can also set up teams that want to fundraise together. So if your workplace or school or your organization wants to work together to help raise funds to support this very, very cool initiative, you can do that as well and kind of pool your efforts together. If you are interested in setting up a fundraiser like this, you can reach out as well to wellingtonwaterwatchers@gmail.com, and someone from the team will be in touch.
Every single person and business that donates will get their name added to this first mobile drinking water unit itself, to show how strong communities can make dreams come true and that individual actions actually do matter.
Yeah, so we actually get to submit a design for like what we want the unit to be wrapped in. So this idea of being able to have every single person's name that has helped support this initiative and like bring this thing to life, it almost brings tears to my eyes. I just think it's such a amazing idea. And just in the time that we have been talking and sharing about this initiative, we're already $704 on the way to our ultimate goal of 50,000 to launch this program. So just a huge thank you to everyone who has contributed. And over the next 2 months, you're going to see us sharing a lot about this initiative as we work to make it a reality through the power of community, and with our motto always held close at heart: water for life, not profit. And with that, I think that we will invite Kara back to the stage to share in some song with us to close out this momentous evening, exploring this idea that we are water.
Amazing. Well, Niaogoa, thank you so much for having me here tonight. It's so wonderful to hear about the amazing work that you're doing and to see the campaigns that are going on and the change that is happening in real time. I think it's so beautiful and such a noble and very worthy cause. Sorry, my dog is jumping up tonight. She would like to say hello. This is Chloe. She also supports water, mostly drinking it and then spilling it all over my floor. So she just wanted to come and say hi to you folks. Okay. So the song that I wanted to close with tonight is thinking about that embodiment. We are water. And so there's a song called the Swirling Water Song, also known as the Fast Moving Water Song. And this song was taught to me by Melissa Ireland, an Anishinaabe woman whose family comes from Curve Lake First Nation. And the song talks about the natural ebbs and flows that happen in our life. How we can find ourselves, in moving steadily through water. Maybe life picks up and gets a little bit busy. And then we can find ourselves in the rapids at times where things are moving quite crazily. But through it all, there is the potential to reach that calm pond at the end. And so acknowledging that water moves in cycles, we ourselves move in cycles as well too. And so the song, Wishita Duya, it starts out slow and then it moves quite quickly and then it ends with a slower verse as well too. And so again, I usually would play this with the drum. Never sung it a cappella before, but we're going to give it a go. Okay. Wishita duya, 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 Wishita duya, duya, hey. Wishita duya, 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 Wishita duya, duya, hey. Wishantanea, hey, hey, Wishantanea, hey, hey. Wishantanea, hey, hey, Wishantanea, hey, hey. Wishita duya, 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 Wishita duya, duya, hey. Wishita duya, 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 Wishita duya, duya, hey. Wishantanea, hey, hey, Wishantanea, hey, hey. Wishantanea, hey, hey, Wishantanea, hey, hey. Wishita duya, 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 Wishita duya, duya, hey. Wishita duya, 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 Wishita duya, duya, hey. Wishantanea, hey, hey, Wishantanea, hey, hey. Wishantanea, hey, hey, Wishantanea, hey, hey. Wishita duya, 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 Wishita duya, duya, hey. Wishita duya, 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 Wishita duya, duya, hey. Wishantanea, hey, hey, Wishantanea, hey, hey. Wishantanea, hey, hey, Wishantanea, hey, hey. Now go everybody. Thank you so much, and it was so lovely to be here tonight to be a part of this wonderful AGM.
Thank you so much, Kara, for that beautiful song. There's so much love for you floating across my screen as emojis. And people, you can also feel free to share in the chat any words of gratitude that you have for Kara for sharing with us tonight her beautiful songs. Thank you. Thank you again. It is clear, I think, from everything that we've looked at over the last hour that there's big work ahead of us, but re recognizing that we have like all these pressures coming up against the water, we know that we're stronger together, that our power is actually rooted in finding ways to work together and to accomplish more through that power of community. I am going to be thinking about how I'm going to find my own ways to pray and sing for the water for years to come, probably for the rest of my life after those words from Sue. And I hope that that will echo into your days as well. And I just want to give one last big shout out to remember, as always, that water is for life, not profit. Thank you so much for being with us, and good night.